Welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are investigating the Dublin Murder Squad. And we are covering the first 15 chapters of The Secret Place by Tana French.
Which is, in fact, a place, but a different place than I was expecting.
Did you think it was the little area that's like, oh, it's natural and beautiful, but then they're like, it's a bulletin board.
They're like, it's actually like a Mean Girls bulletin board.
I think it might be both. I think it's supposed to be kind of a dual secret place. There are many secret places, but there's only one the secret place, and I think it's probably where Chris was murdered. So
yeah, that's true. There's a little bit of a double meaning here.
But Laura, before we dive into what a wild turn of event for a book, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I've read a lot of Star Wars comics. We read our Star Wars, The Courtship of Princess Leia for our live
Laura
show.
Was like, I want more. So
it was actually around the same time. I was reading Star Wars comics around the same time as I was reading The Courtship of Princess Leia. And so I'm working part-time at a library, and they have a lot of access to manga and comics, which I've been loving. And so I read a bunch of Star Wars comics, and they were okay. I liked the one that I liked the most was about, like, it was Age of the Resistance. It was villains, and it was about just like one offshoot chapters on different villains, which I thought were pretty cool. I did appreciate in one of them that I think this was like a bonus one at the end of the book, that there was like this hilarious like offshoot like alternate story about, like, a bonus story about a woman who was in love with Darth Vader and thought that he loved her too, and there was going to be like this she was like having these fantasies about the two of them coming together in a relationship and everything, and when she's finally able to like talk to Darth Vader, he kills her.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
No, I don't know why, but like the art style of this, it was just so ridiculous and everything. And the dialogue too of the character, it was so ridiculous and over the top that it was very funny to me. And then I could just see the writing on the wall, like, this is not going to be good. And of course, like, she comes towards him and thinks that they're going to be like in a relationship, and he immediately just like force chokes her. And kills her, and it's just like, well then, okay, but
this is not the love interest you're looking for.
No. And I don't know why I found that so funny. I just was like, I found that hilarious. But I did like the Age of the Resistance villains comic the best out of the ones that I had read. I read one on Darth Maul, another one on Han Solo and Chewbacca. Han Solo can be very grating. I don't There's something about him that just rubs me the wrong way sometimes, especially in these comics. I think people push a little too hard on the Harrison Ford original trilogy of it all, where they think that that is a very endearing person, and really he can be rather grating. So it doesn't always work for me to read about Han Solo, but that was a fine one. The Darth Maul one was better, and yeah, I like the Age of the Resistance, the villains, the best out of the ones that I read. I also am caught up on Jujutsu Kaisen. I read volume 29. There's only one more volume to come out, and what a roller coaster. So I pre-ordered volume 29 and had it delivered to me because I have like all of the volumes of Jujutsu Kaisen now. I kind of want to reread it, honestly, because I'm like practically out of breath when I'm reading these volumes. But volume 29, I got it in the mail, and then I just like immediately went inside and was just like flying through this, like just my eyes like stuck to the pages, and I was nervous. I was nervous reading it because Gigi Akutami just has no cares in the world about getting rid of certain characters or just disappearing people, that I'm just like, what's gonna happen? I don't know. I'm afraid. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I was like literally out of breath when I was reading this because I was so nervous about what was going to happen. And then there were some twists pulled in volume 29 that I was like, whoa, wait, you're kidding me. And I got a little excited at points. And so this series is just an emotional roller coaster. My brother-in-law said something to me the other day about like, oh, I've been thinking about reading that. My friend really likes the series, although he gets frustrated with it at times. I'm like, I absolutely know why he gets frustrated because
You're like, I'm on board. Are you kidding me?
this series is so up and down and messes with your emotions so much, but I can't recommend it enough. I love Jujutsu Kaisen so much. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, that was uh, everybody go read Jujutsu Kaisen and watch the show too. Season 3 is out now. I need to watch that. So I know what happens because obviously I've read all of it, but it is a lot of fun to watch it in the anime form too once you like read everything to kind of like see it play out on screen and how they deal with some of the action and some of the different powers of people and everything and kind of like how Black Flash is used and stuff like that. It's interesting to see how they take things and adapt them to the screen. So I will be at some point watching the rest of the anime that I haven't watched.
Oh,
And
good.
then I've been watching movies, Hannah. So many
Yes, you
movies.
have been.
So many movies. So I'm trying to think I'm just gonna go back because I don't know if I talked about I watched The Substance.
Oh, how was that?
You know what? I was okay with it. It
Okay.
wasn't like the best movie I've ever seen. I get why it gets why it's like Oscar nominated and everything gets a lot of buzz. And I do think that there were some interesting points made by the movie because it's really taking on like the way that industry, like the beauty industry discards women once they reach a certain age, why women have to, like, how women feel this immense pressure to maintain a certain level of beauty or to try and reach a certain level of beauty and the emotional toll that that can take on people. I think that it was a very interesting movie. However, at the same time, it wasn't like saying anything new. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was all very obvious and in your face. And I think that it was very good makeup and everything in the movie. I thought that like all of that was great, but I think that it was just very in your face and not something like it wasn't a new concept. It
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, we understand this. We've been talking about it. I'm glad that we have brought this up. Like, okay, Demi Moore has a wrinkle, so now obviously she's done with her career. We get what's what the point is. But yeah, I think that it it knew what it wanted to say and it said it a lot in terms of the messaging, in terms of like beauty standards and
Hmm.
like how women there's a double standard and
Yes.
the way that we have to bend over backwards to achieve a certain level of beauty in order to fit the patriarchy's version of what they want for women. But at the same time, it was very heavy handed, if that makes sense, where it was just like
Yeah.
too much. Like for certain audiences, it probably is a good wake up call, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. If I feel like if you're somebody that's watching The Substance, you probably already get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unique because I do it's one of those where I don't want to watch it because I know there's a lot of body horror and I'm not sure
Yeah.
that's something I want to add to my day.
Although
Um,
I don't do a lot of body horror. I didn't think it was too bad.
okay, that's good to know. But like it is interesting that they take it down to that level because it is like Demi Moore is still beautiful. Like
Yeah.
I always think
That's
it's
what I mean.
so
Like she gets a
yeah.
single wrinkle and you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
no."
The subs but like I do also think that that's interesting where like yes even like the Demi Moores of the world are so fundamentally like down like I think about it with like younger women today where people like saw Sydney Sweeney without like makeup on they were like she's mid and it's like she wouldn't even breathe on you she sold you her bathwater and you probably bought it like what's
Hmm.
happening where we do tend to like, yes, you're right that it is kind of a first draft idea, but it's one of those where I'm like, well, that's because like I don't know, the patriarchy still hasn't caught up somehow and it
That's what I
still
mean.
seems unique. Like,
That's what I mean. That certain people may watch it and be like, "What? Mind blowing." But yeah, like I said, I think that probably the people that are watching The Substance are likely people that are like, "Yeah, I get this. We've been talking about this." You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
let's hope
it
so at
is
least.
interesting though, like in a day and age where there's like, because I was watching TV the other day, I was just rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and there was I have Peacock with ads because I am cheap.
Ever
And
why would you ever pay for it like that much?
I'm
No.
not paying for no ads.
No.
So, anyways, uh, all of the ads though that I was getting were Ozempic or
Oh,
like GLP-1s. And if they were not GLP-1s, they were related to like makeup or whatever. They were all directed at like women. And granted, they know that from like the stats that I have to put in on Peacock that I am a woman.
right.
But it was a little disappointing to me that like all of the ads that come up on TV seem to be, or even on YouTube even, are very much like pushing so
Oh
hard
yeah.
GLP-1s, beauty standards, and also AI. Like
Yep.
I'm like, what is the day and age we're in? So maybe, like a movie like The Substance is important in the current day and age that we're in to get a message like that out there that these things are happening and they're so damaging to people to try and chase these unreachable standards. So yeah, I thought there was good performances in this. I thought that Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, I think, was the other actress. I'm not remembering. And Dennis Quaid was in this too. I do not like Dennis Quaid, but he was in it. And he grossly eats food that's probably the most bothersome part of the movie. You mentioned the body
Mm.
horror. I did not like watching Dennis Quaid stuff his mouth full of food and complain about Demi Moore being ugly. Like that was the most bothersome part of the movie to me. But yeah, I think that it is interesting to have a movie like that, especially in, like I said, our current climate of so much pushing of you have to look a certain way, you have to do Botox, you have to do this, you have to do that in order to fit this standard that is unreachable and set up by billionaires for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting movie, but I, I, I don't know. I have conflicting feelings on it, I guess, because maybe I already understood what they were trying to get across, but maybe other people will take something away from it. I also watched Waiting for Guffman. Have you watched that, Hannah?
Oh, I've never watched it, but I've heard of it quite a bit.
I really liked it. It's
Oh, good.
so it's one of the so it was recommended on recommended to me because Catherine O'Hara sadly passed away, and she was in this movie. It's a mockumentary
Hmm.
style movie created by Sir Christopher Guest, and he is essentially leading a community musical, and they think that like this big time Broadway reviewer is going to be coming to this musical, so it's following them in the lead up to the premiere of this community musical and all the different actors who have come together for this and their preparations, and then the actual performance itself and what happens afterwards and everything, very much in the style of Best in Show, which is probably a
Yeah.
more popular mockumentary that people have seen. But I really like Christopher Guest movies, and I had not seen this one. And so when it was recommended in the list of like movies that, excuse me, that Catherine O'Hara was in, I was like, oh, I'll watch this. And it was fun. I really liked it. And I would recommend it if you're into that style of movie where if you like Best in Show or even if you like The Office or something like that, you would very much vibe with Waiting for Guffman and think that it's fun. And it's a lot of deadpan humor that you have to be listening to because obviously in a mockumentary they're taking this very seriously. There's not going to be moments where you're going to like obviously know like, oh, this is the part where we laugh. No, it's more of a, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that type of thing. And I really enjoyed that a lot. So it was a fun one. And then the last one I'll talk about, I watched The Boy and the Heron, which
Oh,
is
how
a
about that?
studio. I really
Ghibli.
loved
Yeah.
it.
Oh, good.
Studio Ghibli movie. I really loved it. And this one follows a young boy who I think it's during World War II, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, during World War II, a young boy named Mahito, his mother dies tragically, and so his father relocates them from in the city out into the country. And his father ends up remarrying a woman and she becomes pregnant. And so there's a lot of things that Mahito is dealing with this grief, and his father has a new job, and Mahito is starting in a new school and everything. So he's dealing with all of these different life changes and he's struggling with them. But he's living at this new home on this estate in the country where his father's new wife lives, and he's trying to develop a relationship with her and the staff at this home and everything. And there's this mysterious heron that keeps appearing to him, and it is kind of beckoning him to come with it. And eventually, one day, he does follow this heron because it convinces him that he needs to go and save his mother, who he thought
Interesting.
was already dead.
Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful movie. Like I loved it. I think that there has yet to be a Studio Ghibli movie that I've been like, oh, I don't enjoy this. I think I love them all. I think they're all so good. And I just really liked this, and I thought that it was a really interesting movie. I love the way that they play with fantasy and grief and coming of age. They do such a wonderful job, and the animation style. I love the art and animation style in them. They're just excellent. And also, Robert Pattinson was one of the voices, and he was so good. I love Robert Pattinson being quirky. So, yeah, it was a really, really great movie. One of my favorites so far this year. So, yeah, I highly recommend. But Hannah, what have you
Yeah.
been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Yeah, so I have been reading a chunk of a book. I feel like this year I'm kind of not letting like the bigger books scare me as much, where I'm like, oh
Good
yeah,
job.
you should definitely read them, even if you're gonna read less this year because of it. It's still reading more. So I picked up a book I've been meaning to pick up. It's one of my 26 and 26 books called The Age of Vice by Deepti Kapoor. This is I got like I have one that is the like the book of the month version of the book that's 548 pages, but I think like it can get anywhere up to 900 pages. This book was fascinating. So it takes place in India. And at the beginning of the book, we meet this man named AJ, and he is getting arrested because there's been a horrible traffic incident. And then we find out that he is kind of this powerful, he's part of this powerful crime, like syndicate type thing. And then it
Hmm.
flashes back, and we learn about AJ and his, like, how he found himself doing this. It's interesting because you and I've talked about this off mic a little bit. The the system in India, the caste system is very specific and it is very much alive. And I would say that there are certain parts of that, but I also wouldn't say like, oh, this is a book that you're reading to like learn about India, because it is very much like kind of a mafia family and like seeing how they run things and how they're trying to like come up in the world. And I really loved the first, like it's told in different sections. There's 5 parts to it. I really loved the first 3 parts because I really loved the character of AJ and finding out like he kind of has this tragic backstory. He's sold into pretty much slavery. He feels like he wants to be this person with like a lot of power, but he also just wants to survive. And like meeting that type of person is very interesting. He's also like a very beautiful man, and he gets like very lucky in some of the things he finds himself in, or unlucky if you look at it in different ways. So he's interesting. And then you meet this girl named Neda or Netta, and she is, or Nita. I apologize for not knowing the
Hmm.
phrasing, but she's like this journalist in her early 20s who is part of like the upper caste system. So she kind of is like a little oblivious to the world. And her parents are like quote unquote liberal, but she also kind of finds herself like not caring as much as she thinks she should, or just kind of letting this all happen. And she gets caught up with the family. And I thought she was a very interesting character because I think we don't always get to see like women behaving badly and like the
Hmm. Hmm.
repercussions of that. And I wouldn't say she is a bad character, but she's a character who is indifferent to the suffering of others until it's right in front of her face.
Sure.
And that's a very interesting person that I just don't think a lot about in like my female representation in books I get to see. And I was really fascinated by her character. The fourth and fifth sections of this book kind of go off the rails in a way where like you're building this huge epic like mafia-esque family and all of these different people affected by them, and then the last two parts, I was like, what am I reading? I don't know if I like this book anymore. This feels wild. And Emily Edwards, who we've had on the podcast before,
Hmm.
formerly Fuckboys of Literature, but
Author of Viviana Valentine always gets her fan.
exactly.
Hmm.
Um, she had been like, "Hey, when you read that, let me know what you think." And I kind of was like, "I don't know if I love it or hate it. I don't know what's happening. That fifth part was terrible." And she was like, "I agree." Like, and so we both kind of talked a little bit about it, but it's a
Hmm.
wild time. It is an interesting saga, and I wouldn't say like it was a very long book for me to hate the last two parts. I wish it had been a
Sure.
100 pages less, and we could have just kind of had something because like the tone it ended on I cared less about because I felt like the book was really about like these two ancillary characters, and for some reason like towards the end they were like, but let's focus on the playboy useless man who's been in the background
Hmm.
all the time. And I was like, I actually, you didn't do anything with his character that made me care about him, so I don't know why we're still
Hmm.
sitting with him. He's not interesting to me. And so that was a little bit of a bummer, but I mean, like, I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I read the book. It's been interesting to me. And it made me want to read like more fiction that like looks at India or looks at other locations that aren't just, America.
Hmm.
And did I talk recently? Did I also I had read another book featuring Indian characters in America. Did I talk about A Place for Us yet?
You know what? I don't remember. You may have.
Yeah, I also read A Place for Us by Fatma Farheen Mirza. This was read to me via audiobook with various narrators. This is uh I just pulled up the description on Storygraph and it's like the first novel from Sarah Jessica Parker's new imprint. I'm like, okay, I guess. But this book was about an Indian American family who emigrated over to America, and it tells the story of from the perspective of the oldest daughter, the youngest son, and the mother. And this book made me sob.
Mm.
I loved this book so much. And it's hard because, like, this book was so important to me. And then I was reading Age of Vice at the same time. And they're two very different novels. So I don't want
Hmm.
to compare them even a little bit, but they are the two books I read most recently. And I think everyone should read this book. It was like on Bookstagram's best book of the 21st century. And I wholeheartedly agree.
Hmm.
Um, this book was super important to me specifically because again, there were parts of it that I was frustrated by because throughout this, like, you learn a lot about the oldest daughter who is definitely trying to people please for her parents, and she's willing to find how to be herself in their like Muslim American family and like the culture and to respect it. Like, she really wants to go to college, but her dad's like, well, you can go to college as a girl if you become a doctor. And she's like, okay, well, then I'm
Hmm.
going to become a doctor and I'm going to be very successful.
Hmm.
And then you meet the youngest brother or the only son, and he is supposed to be like the patriarch in this family if they hold traditions, but he just doesn't fit. And he knows he doesn't fit and he's frustrated by it. And it was a very specific experience of like feeling very seen because he starts to have issues with like substance abuse. Um, and I felt very seen in a lot of the stuff that like a lot of this is about like religion and things like that. And I
Hmm.
can say like I grew up in a very religious household. I struggled with substance abuse, and there were certain things that made me think about my life of like things that like we talk a lot about how amazing my mom is, so I would never say that she's not, but like I remember she used to tell me that she was scared for my soul. And that
Hmm.
was very, it's very hard when you're struggling and you know that that comes from a place of love and you can hear it
Hmm.
because my mom had to say it, but at the same time you're sitting there like in your future self being like, oh, I think that messed me up more than I was willing to admit. And like I
Hmm.
think there were
Hmm.
very specific moments like that for the youngest son where I was like, oh, I think that messed him up in ways that like it hurts. But through it all, I felt very similar where like no one was making, people were making mistakes, but it wasn't due to like being difficult. It's because life is a mistake and like you could feel it. And I really loved that. And I also really loved the representation of the oldest sister because she is struggling because her parents like focus on the youngest brother because he needs the most care because he's the one
Hmm.
struggling. But at the same time, that messes with her because she's sitting there like, I'm doing everything right and my family doesn't notice it. And that's such,
Yeah.
and you're reading it and you're like, she's right. Like, and she makes certain choices in her life because of that frustration. And you're sitting
Hmm.
there and she beats herself up after it. And you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I think that it, and it goes back to what I just said. Like, I think that messed her up more than they thought it would. Like there's just so many moments where like life happens and people beat themselves up for years and years and years, and you're definitely seeing that play out, and it is a struggle, and it was just so beautiful. I really loved reading this. Like it's just a realistic family, and I would say like the biggest gripe I had was I was really mad that the middle sister literally didn't get a voice at all. And I was like,
What a middle child
I
wrote.
know. Like they're like, okay, the focus gonna be the oldest who's gonna struggle with like, I'm doing everything right. And then the youngest who's like, I feel like I don't belong in this family for some reason. And then the middle one's like, and I'm here. Like, and that was very frustrating. But I was also really sad because like the final section it just is really bittersweet and like it kind of shows that, family is not guaranteed, in some ways. And it was very beautiful. And I suggest everyone go read it because I loved that book so
Yeah, it
much.
sounds
So,
really good.
um,
I do
so
think it's interesting, like you're talking about this book and how like a lot of the trauma that parents inflict is not always intentional.
yeah.
And I had recently had a conversation with my therapist. I think it was, I may have told you about this, Hannah, or may have even mentioned it on the podcast, but I've thought about it a lot about how my therapist had said something to me along the lines of like all the research and stuff that we have, as people have done in psychology about like the ways that parents pass on trauma or inflict trauma upon their children, there's almost no way to escape not inflicting some amount of trauma
Right.
onto your children. That even the best parents who do all the right things and are willing to adapt to each of their children in unique ways to help them succeed and everything still are inflicting a certain degree
Yes.
of trauma onto their children. Like there's no escape. And I was thinking about you saying that or whatever. And it's like, I think that literally, everyone inflicts a certain amount of trauma on other people, even
Yes.
if you're not just a parent. Like you can have conversations with other family members or friends, and these things sit with you and can affect you in deep ways like that, even though they're not necessarily like the person may not have intended to harm you
Right.
when they said them. And so I just think that that's a really interesting look at that book to think about it from that perspective of like,
Like,
yeah, uh, even people with really good intentions can inflict damage.
yes. And I that is something I've also said to my siblings because like I've watched my sisters become moms and they've like sat there, they're like, I just don't want to screw my kid up. And I'm always like,
You're gonna.
I go, everyone screws up everyone else. The thing you have to do is screw them up in the way that works best for you. Like, because if you're trying to screw them up and not be true to yourself, it's going to make it so much worse. Like, if you can
Yeah.
at least own up to your failings and be like, nope, I'm definitely going to mess you up in this way, and that's going to be it, I think it can
Mhm.
help. So,
Yeah, I just think that it, and that's a really good perspective to have too, that yeah, do it in the way that is most genuine to who you are. And if, I mean, you're not going to be able to not
yeah,
screw
no,
up your
like,
kids. Like, unfortunately, it's gonna
that's the
happen.
my oldest sister and I often talk about how we're not bad people, but we're difficult personalities in a certain type of way where we're incredibly
Hmm.
intense. Like we just are.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean like I'm intense scary. It just means like I feel things like 100%. And so I think people can feel that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a tough hang. And one day my sister was like, you know what? If I could fix my personality, I would, but I can't. So this is what people get. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel of like, if I could fix my personality and be less intense, I think I would have done it by now. I think that
Sure.
person would have existed by now. And guess what? She doesn't. So here we are.
Hmm.
So, um, but yeah, so those are two books that I read. I loved them both. I mean, I loved one very much. The other one, flaws, but I'm fascinated by it. It is one where
Can
I
I
want to hear
ask?
what.
So that one. your description of it intrigues me more than the deeply beautiful family generational trauma book that I probably would love and cry through.
Yes.
But if I'm going based on what you have just described to me and going to pick a book immediately to read, it will be the bigger one because I'm
They're both
intrigued.
big books, just so you know. They're
Okay.
both like epic tomes.
Well, here's
So,
my other thing. I applaud you for taking on big books this year because I've made that my goal the past 2 years. I have yet to pick up a really big book this year because I struggle with it. And the other thing is too, like when you were talking about like, oh, I feel a certain way this far in. I'm like, that's a big commitment.
it's
It's
such a
a
big
big
commitment.
commitment to not like a book that's huge.
Yes.
But I was
Yeah.
kind of wondering, so I am a big fan of The Godfather by Mario
Yes.
Puzo. And controversial, but I
Big dick energy over here.
yes. Wow. Wow, she said it.
Ruin me for other women.
She said
I,
it.
I
I can't
haven't
believe
read
it.
that book. I just know what Laura told me about it.
Yeah.
So.
uh but I'm questioning, so like what you're saying about it, it kind of appeals to me from that level of like and Hannah, that I also really enjoy a book where I come out of it thinking, I don't know if I loved or hated this.
Yeah.
Would you say that that is a book that you would like recommend I read?
I kind yes, I think it's the same as like the Edwards of it all. Is she saw it on my shelf one day and she was like, "Tell me when you read that. Just tell me." And I think that that's the energy I would go in. It wouldn't be like my like a place where I'm like, read that book and cry and feel. And I think everyone should run out and go read it. It's more like a you know, it's gonna speak to you because it's a very interesting cover. It's like black
Okay.
on gold and it just says Age of
Mm.
Vice really big. And I remember being incredibly intrigued by it at like for a couple of months before I bought it. And then it like sat on my bookshelf for I think 2 years. I think I got it on Indie Bookstore Day 2024. And this year I was like, I've been meaning to read it. And I honestly thought it was a murder mystery. I don't know if I just got
Mhm.
confused with Emily Edwards of it all. But when I picked it up, I was like, hmm. And it's also one where they're like, it's the Gilded Age of India on the cover, on the flap. And then I was like, I wouldn't call it that. I think it's kind of
Okay.
a mafia book. And so it was very strange. But I do think
So
it's
like
one of
interesting
those like,
marketing too.
yeah, I'm like, definitely read it, but don't force yourself to go out and get it. Like, just see when it speaks to you.
Yeah, with a book that big, I don't know that I want to drop $35. I'm not gonna like
Well,
it.
you could
So
just,
that'll be a library one.
yeah, you could just take my copy and I could give that to you because I own
I'm
it. Like,
I'm pretty sure that we have that at our local library, so
okay.
I'm almost positive I've seen that one.
I'm more telling you, it took me like a month to read. So I'm like, I don't know how long you can get the library loan out, but maybe you have
A
new
month.
perks. So,
So
yeah, I would say that you could probably get it done. So yeah,
we'll
rent
see.
it, see
Maybe
what
it's
you
a Mega
think.
Man one.
But yeah, so I read that book and then for watching, I haven't been I so Laura, an update you didn't know you needed.
Yes.
Stardew Valley just hit its 10-year anniversary
Happy
and
birthday.
this is a cute little game that Laura's bought me merch for, but this was
Hmm.
created by like one man named Eric. He goes by Concerned Ape. And he made this game like 10 years ago where he was like, I think like six people will play it. I just like it. It's a little fun sim game and makes me happy. So I'll post it. And then he posted it and it like blew up. And he always said like he just like announces updates to it and updates the game and adds to like he's added new areas to the map on this game and they're always free. Like he just is like, yep, you can buy it once and now it's just yours to play forever. And so it's very fun. And for the 10th anniversary, in this game you can marry specific people on the island that you're on or in the town that you're in.
Hmm.
And there is a lot of back and forth on who the best marriage candidates are. And certain ones weren't marriage candidates originally. So, like, now there are, I think, 4 men and 4 women you can marry.
Okay.
And he just announced 2 new marriage candidates. And so it was very
Beautiful.
big. And at first I was like, oh, is it going to be new people? And Paul was like, it's not going to be new people, Hannah. It's just going to be like new, like people. And people have like gone on the record that everyone wants to marry this woman named Robin, who has this like blended family, and a man named Demetrius who yells at her for not knowing that a tomato is a fruit. And, and everyone dislikes him. But like people have strong feelings. And so everyone was all a buzz on who the two marriage candidates were. And everyone thought one was going to, I mean, from what I've seen, like, and everyone in my household thought one was definitely going to be this woman who lives out in Calico Desert named Sandy. And she is one of the marriage candidates.
I
But
love that she lives in the desert and her name is Sandy.
well, Laura, so this is like you have to say
I don't
hi
know
to
about
the
the lore of
no,
Stardew
this is
Valley, so
just you
this is
got me on
probably an inside
something
joke thing.
where she like you have to say hi to the villagers so that you get hearts with them. Like that's a whole thing
Hmm.
of becoming friends with them and how to find like a boyfriend or girlfriend. You have to get all these hearts and you get different heart events. So once you get 5 hearts with someone, you get a cutscene with them where you can become closer or you
Oh,
can lose points if you vote incorrectly.
oh
And
no.
specifically, my
That's
first game through, I click through too fast on stuff and there was one where there is an unhoused man who his name is Linus, and he loves living in a tent on the outskirts of
mhm.
town. That's his joke. But he like says the most tragic things to you, where he's like, "Are you here to mock me?" And it's like, "No, Linus, I'm
Oh.
here to give you fruit so we can become friends, and you can show me your little tent." Um, but there's a cutscene with him where he's like digging through the trash, and I
Mhm.
accidentally shamed him my first run through. So now every time there's that
Huh.
cutscene, I'm like, I have to be so careful when I hit the A button because I
Oh.
cannot shame Linus again. But Sandy,
Poor
so like
Linus.
they have all these random lines that you just have them read. And some of them are like wrote, like there's one who's like, I work at Gus's Tavern part-time for the money. Uh, it's Sandy one day. No one in my household had read this like carefully. I read it and I was like, I read the most out-of-pocket thing from Sandy in the world where she goes, "My name's not Sandy. I just call myself that because I think it's good for business." And I think about that all the time. And so a lot of people were tweeting,
She took a single marketing class.
"Do you think that if you marry Sandy, you get to find out her real name?" And I was like, "No, I don't think Sandy ever tells you her real name. Like, you're just married to this person who changed her name for marketing."
Yeah,
Like,
she changed her name for marketing. She's not
um,
giving that up when she gets married. Like,
but then
it could ruin her livelihood.
there's this other marriage candidate named Clint, or he wasn't a marriage candidate. He is the new one. And Clint
Okay.
is universally reviled, Laura. People
Why?
hate this man. He's a blacksmith who has a very, very, very aggressive crush on a woman named Emily with blue hair. And it is really weird. Like his energy is off where he just like notices her a lot. And a lot of people are like, he's
Hmm.
an incel. And like Emily's just not interested in him in that way. And you could actually marry Emily. And then throughout the rest of the game, he's like, "I just wish Emily loved me." And you're like, "I'm
Hmm.
married to her, man." And so he's the other marriage candidate. And so a lot of people are like, "We're good. No, thank you." And it's been very reactive on TikTok. I actually found a TikTok where a lady was like, um, she was like, "Who wants to marry Clint? I want to marry Clint. He has a job and a beard, and that's better than a lot of these candidates on here." And she was like, "And everyone's saying he's too creepy to Emily, and we're all sitting here with day-to-day notes on where all the villagers are at all times." Because like you have to do little tasks for them, so you have to know where they're at.
Uh-huh.
And so she's like, "We're
I
all
enjoy
sitting
that. I
on
enjoy
our
that joke.
high horses because he's creepy with Emily, and we're
Well,
stalking
we know
everyone."
everyone's location.
Yeah.
What a bunch of hypocrites.
And there is also one who, like, his name is Shane, and he is literally an alcoholic who you can
Oh,
marry. And
okay.
then he's like, it's all these cutscenes of like, I'm gonna become better. But then like it's set like sim games, so he's always at the bar every night. And you're like, well, you didn't change. You're still at the bar. And literally his room in the game has like muddy footprints in it. And it's like people choose that one. And they're like, great, I won't have the worst marriage candidate. And I'm sitting there like, I don't like Clint, everyone hates him, but we've all like put weird emotions onto this man.
Hmm.
Shane is an actual alcoholic with muddy footprints going into his bedroom, which is
Hmm.
not a good thing. Um, so
These are
I
kind of sad.
a, lo- a lot of the marriage candidates end with I usually marry the women. Right now I am romancing the doctor on my new save,
Okay.
who is a man with a very weird mustache. But I'm like, yeah, I'll marry Harvey. He's fine. I don't want to marry any of the other male candidates because you have Shane the
Yeah.
alcoholic, and then the other two, like weirdly feel like they're 18 years old, and you're like,
Oh.
I don't feel the need to marry. Like one of them's like in a band living in his mother's like house waiting for
Mhm.
his father to get back from the war. Oh, and there's also a character who comes back from the war and he's just like fundamentally changed, and you're like, there is
What
something
war?
tragic happening in this game that is just a cozy little game.
W-
Like,
So here's my thing. I was really downplaying Stardew Valley apparently. Like
yeah,
I really thought it was just like, oh, it's fun, we're farming. Like,
it's an expansive world, Laura.
like I had no idea all this tragic stuff was happening.
Yeah,
And like you talking about like insulting this unhoused person. I'm like, oh my gosh, poor
yeah,
Linus.
it's
Like, can
so
someone get
sad.
him help?
Well,
How
Linus,
we need to go fund me for Linus.
at
I
one point he gets there is a cutscene where like you can ask him to live with you, and he's like, that's insulting. I live in this tent by choice. How dare you? And so like Linus is like, no, I am part of the natural world here. And then so like the marriage candidates were a big topic of conversation. I started a new save over it because I was like, I want to start a new farm because you get to try like different farms
uh-huh.
out. And so I got the Four Corners farm. But also a topic in our house this weekend where I was sitting there and one of the characters is named Carolyn. And I was like, did you guys ever notice how big Carolyn's boobs are? Both my husband and sister-in-law were like, Hannah, absolutely not. And then they looked at it, they were like, but you are correct. Because they're like weird and low to the ground. Like it's, you just get very invested in this world where you're like, that's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a good game. I like it.
Wow.
Yeah. Because like it's a whole ecosphere because you're trying to like, most people, there's different ways to play the game, but most people are trying to get like a perfection score. So you have to do all these
Hmm.
tasks and like complete a bunch of stuff in order to get 100% completed on the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
I I really downplayed like how complex this was. I just thought it was like fun, relaxing farming.
I mean, it's fun and relaxing until
Until you
you.
have to like deal with who do I marry, an incel or possibly
The the girl candidates are pretty good. There's one who like just
why are
loves
the
art.
the
Um,
men so terrible?
I
Like,
don't know. There's one man named Elliot. He lives out on the beach and he's just a very dramatic writer with long flowing hair. And this is
oh,
where
that's
like
not too
this was
bad.
again, this was created by one person. And so someone once was like he they married Elliot. They're like, Elliot just gave me the ick because they like went to talk to him and his phrase was, you they had just married him and he goes, good on you for getting the loveliest flower in all the valley. And they were like, I got the immediate ick and now I need to divorce him. And the creator of the game responded and he was like, that was an accident. He was supposed to say it about Leah. And so it was just a glitch that he just was like, it's fine. And everyone was, and there were a bunch of people in the comments being like, I'm sorry, I just expected that. You marry a diva, you get diva words.
I,
So.
I guess I'm bewildered by all of this information.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun game. So Leah loves art. You have Abigail. She lives in her parents' store. She's like a sword fighter, but also she has a
That's cool.
glitch where if you give
Oh.
her rocks, she goes, "That was delicious." And so it's like,
Mm.
oh, the people
Hmm.
who marry Abigail, you're like, you married a girl who eats rocks. Like, and then you have Haley, who's kind of a brat, but then she's nice as she goes on. She's like
Hmm.
cheerleader vibes. Emily, who Clint is in love with the blue hair, she loves like crystals and she saves a parrot.
Hmm.
Um, and then you have oh um what's her name? I forget her name, but she is a very tragic figure
Oh no.
who her mother is an alcoholic as well, and she's the bus driver. Figure that one out. She's an alcoholic bus driver,
That
and
sounds unsafe.
if you marry her, she decorates your bedroom either in strawberries or pirate themed, or there's a third theme. And so
What?
she,
These themes are all over the place.
they are. So I've married Emily once because I didn't realize that you had to talk to people to get hearts with them. And so she was the
Oh.
first person that I got enough hearts with. Because she was always at the bar and like I would go to say hi to people once I realized. So I got all the hearts with her.
So are these
Um,
NPCs that have like this
yeah.
extensive? Oh my goodness.
And then I've married Leah. You have to fight off her ex to marry her. And then I married the one who decorates your rooms, and I do feel bad for not remembering her name, but she's a little boring. And then
This
this
is
go
the bus
around,
driver that decorates rooms.
it's the bus driver's daughter.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so, And then I'm this year time around I'm gonna be marrying Harvey. So I've kind of gone the full gamut of
Wow.
people. Yeah.
Except for Clint.
Except for Clint. Well, he's not an option until
Oh,
like
he's not
later
an
this
option?
year. Not yet.
Oh,
He was released as the next one, but you have to have update
got it.
1.7. So
Got
I
it.
feel like you would get into this because I feel like you would love the drama and the little reading of
I don't
things.
know. It
So
sounds stressful. I
so
recently
that's
started playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and I was telling you and our other friend that gave me the gaming system so I could start this hobby. I had to literally, I'm trying to learn how to play this. It took me 20 minutes to figure out where to throw a rock
that's
because I could not navigate the controller and I didn't know where I was looking. And you hear the character saying, throw a rock over here, throw a rock over here. And I'm literally like, I would throw it over there if I knew where you were. I can't see you. So I'm just like spinning around and throwing rocks everywhere and running out of rocks and collecting more rocks and then throwing more rocks.
yeah.
Did that for a good 20 minutes.
I feel like every beginning of a game is like very stressful on like what's happening until you finally get a good swing. Because I remember for Stardew, my husband at first was like, "Do you like it?" And I was like, "No, it's really stressful, and I think I'm bad at it." And he's like, "Hannah, no one's bad at Stardew." And he was like, now 500 hours later, I'm like, "You see, there's this whole universe, and you're in Pelican Town."
Uh-huh. You're
So
in. You're in deep.
I'm in deep.
When I was playing this, my husband came in while I was trying to throw a rock, and he has played video games before because they had gaming systems in his home growing up. And so he was getting very frustrated with me. And I was like, calm. Like he and I were, I was sitting trying to play this game, throwing this rock. And he's like, you're not even walking in the right direction. Move your head so your view, you can see. I'm like, I don't know how. Quit yelling at me.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
I don't know.
That's amazing. I love that. Well, speaking of doing deep dives into new things, should we
Mhm.
start the secret place?
A secret place.
So we have a prologue, and guess what? Holly Mackey is back, and is she a partial protagonist, or really is it her friend Becca over there? Because
So it's hard to say, but this book is unique from the standpoint of it switches between the detective's POV and like a flashback to the younger girls in this school that we're following. And I
yes,
thought that was kind of unique. And I also noticed, like, and you might get to this too, but the language is different that French writes, where it seems more, I want to say annoying, but I think she was trying to make it as more
I mean,
immature to fit the characters.
are all of these girls living nightmares? And did I have to keep reminding myself they're
Oh,
16?
they are
Yes.
terrible.
This is just us being 35-year-old women or 34-year-old women being like, oh, this is the worst because
Yeah, we're
why?
both gonna be, oh no,
Oh,
not 34 yet,
you're
but
gonna be 34 soon.
I'll be 34 soon.
I'm gonna be 35 as of when this is released. So
Yep.
my birthday was
Happy
on
birthday, Hannah.
Tuesday. Um, go read Age of Vice right now. No. But we start with Holly Mackey. We have her sitting outside with her friends Julia, Selena, and Becca. They're all
Mhm.
going to be living together in the new year at school. They're 16. Everything's amazing. And it will be Becca and Holly's first time living on campus. But the other two have already been living on there since they were like 12. We kind of find out a little bit about their home lives. Like Julia's
Yeah,
parents travel a lot. Selena's parents, are they kind of like commune people? I can't remember.
and kind of. They all have
Yeah.
like interesting backstories, and this is like a prep school of sorts where
Yes.
you can stay on campus as a boarder, or you can be somebody who commutes back and forth. And there's kind of a divide between the people who are boarders versus the people who commute and don't stay there, and unique, weird teenage dynamics. But
Yeah.
they all of these girls in this specific group of Holly Mackies have like a unique background that has kind of
Yes.
brought them all together of sorts.
Yes. And so then we go on to Steve Moran, who is also back. I said, does Laura remember who he is?
I did not until he reminded us that
Yes.
he was the guy who was fed the info
Information from
in
Frank
Frank
Mackey.
Mackey's book.
So he's
And
now
then I
in
remembered.
He's now in cold cases, and Holly comes
Mhm.
around to see him. We find out that he was like a huge person, like he helped her as a witness and did all these things. But we also find out that the case he worked on with her got him stuck in cold cases when he really wanted murder because he should have let the collar go to the murder squad. He was a
But the thing was,
lackey,
he
but he
got
didn't.
cold cases. Like cold cases was like a move up for him
Yes.
and was a good opportunity. Like he mentions that, and like Mackie got him cold
Yes.
cases, so like he's kind of thankful, but at the same time, he's like, I really wanted murder, and this kind of sucks.
Yeah, he ended up getting a ton of experience, but murder kind of shut the door on him because of it. So he questions Holly, who's now 17 with an adult present. She's super annoyed by this because she's like, I know who you are. And she's
But I
also,
do like that he was like, no, we have to have an appropriate adult in here.
yeah,
Like that is important. So I was like, okay, phew. At least we don't have
Holly
to worry
is
about that right off the bat.
Holly is also just like become Frank 2.0, where she's like, I'm really good at lying and I'm
Mhm.
really good at covering my tracks. But they go over why she's there. She lives at St. Kilda's still. It's a place for
Mhm.
girls, and a boy was found murdered on school grounds a year ago, and they never found the murderer. We found out Holly was living there at the time, as of the prologue, but they have this board at the school across from the art room called a secret place where
It's
girls can
essentially a burn book
it's
bulletin board.
it's a burn book with like oversight where the girls can tell their secrets. And after
And the
Christmas,
teachers are very much like, oh, it's fine. We don't need to monitor it too much. And like, you
I
guys
mean,
are
they
dumb.
check it 3 times a day. That is excessive in some part, like at least they did that, but it's also to help girls narc on each other. But they put it up
I
after
guess.
Chris died to help deal with their trauma.
Hmm.
And last night, she and her friends were in the school after hours. While she was there, she noticed that someone posted a picture of Chris, who looked happy and alive, with words cut out of the magazine saying, I know who killed him. Um,
Hmm.
they go through it. She didn't touch it. She put it in an envelope, but also she did cut school to come talk to him instead of saying she needed to go see the
And then
police.
she's like, will you call the school and say that you're my dad? And
And
he's
he's
like,
like,
no,
no.
I'm not going to do that.
It's
And
like,
she's like
well,
very annoyed by this. I'm like, why would you? That's dumb.
she's very precocious. He said he would look into it. He asks why she came to him, and she remembered he didn't pity her last time when a lot of people were
Hmm.
pitying her. I also love that like we never find out what happened to her, her uncle. Like it's just like Donna
Hmm.
is like, you have to wonder. I'm not telling you. Because the
Well,
only
that's
other
a big
mention
spoiler for me because I was waiting for something like that to happen. And I was like, well,
I
maybe we'll
don't
get that
think we
info in the
find
next
out.
half.
I mean, I could be misremembering, but I don't think we find out. All that
Okay.
gets mentioned is she has to buy Jackie high heels. So the only thing that Tana French was like, you get to know is like Jackie is
Okay.
still in Holly's life. Because also hinted at, I don't know if Frank and her mom are together. Like it's hinted at
Yeah,
because they
it's
seem to
mentioned
be
that they're like
living
at a school
together.
event together
Yeah.
and that like the mom like steps on Frank's foot to like kind
Well,
of
and
keep him under control.
she talks about home and she doesn't differentiate like when I'm at
Hmm.
dad. So it does feel like her parents might have gotten back together.
Right.
Um, Moran talks to his boss and hints he wants to be part of the case if he can. The boss is like, yeah, I don't care if you want to help murder, help murder. I get it. And so he goes over to talk to the primary, Antoinette Conway, a
Hmm.
female detective who made murder recently. Um, Moran hints to the reader that she's likely suffering from quite a bit of sexism and she doesn't play
Hints.
nicely
I mean,
with the
it's
boys.
it's pretty obvious that there's a
Um,
lot of sexism.
and there's also potentially racism because it's kind of hinted that she's multiracial or
Hmm.
Moran just isn't quite sure her background. But she's super tall and tough. They discuss the photo, how he knows Holly and that he's like taken an interest. She's kind of like, well, do you have a problem working with women? And he's like, no. She's like, well, you'd have to take orders from me. And he said, no. And she goes, okay, then you can come, but I have the right to kick you off at any time. So
Hmm.
then we have a flashback. It's the start of last year term. The girls are together for the first time
Can I
living
just say that all
together.
of these flashbacks are such a nightmare to read? Like,
I have a feeling that like Tana French hates teenage girls, but that could
she's making
just
me
be
hate them.
I
She's
know.
really making me hate them.
It is like something where I think it's a very real. I wonder if Tana French was in boarding school where it feels like
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going on like retreats with nuns because I went to Catholic school
Hmm.
as a girl, and it is kind of like it is a weird experience when you're in it. So, and
Yeah.
high school girls, I mean, they're going through a lot. Like they're so, and I do respect that in this book they point that out a lot. Like Conway is like, you know how little like these are young teenagers
Hmm.
they don't know what it would mean if you were sexually turned on by them, but they want you to be. Like
Yep.
that is, I think that that is something that is very realistic to discuss of like girls, like young girls want to know that they like
They want to be
are
desirable.
attractive or and desirable, but they don't want to be like necessarily sexual. And I think like
Yeah.
that's it this book definitely dives into that. So, um, but they Becca starts making fun of Joanne, the popular girl, and her team of Daleks, Gemma
I love the
or
Doctor Who reference.
Gemma, Orla, and Allison. The girls all sort of get on fine. Like they got on fine when they were 15, but now things kind of feel like they might be changing where like Joanne's a little bit more touchy on those four, and it's just
Well, it's
weird.
like a weird dynamic where like Joanne's group are definitely like the Regina George group.
Yes.
And they like Holly and Becca and Julia's group, they're like a ancillary group where they're like there and they're okay terms-ish, but not, it's like, I don't know, weird vibe.
Yeah, it's a weird vibe. And so then Serena and Julia show the girls an area where they go to a lot outside that it's its own secret place that like is like this little alcove of nature. And
Hmm.
Holly notes that they had this part of their life that the two didn't know about before. We also do a flash over to Chris and find out he has 8 months and a few weeks to live. Then we head back to Conway and Moran as they head over to the school. Conway tests him by sending him in for coffee, then making him throw it away immediately.
Love
She
it.
gives him the rundown of the school. They like the school holed up during the prior investigation. The headmistress thinks no one could have done this on the grounds, thinks it was an outside job.
Hmm.
Chris was amazing. Everyone liked him. He was Mr. Popular. He was nice to everyone. Would sometimes drink, but not too often. Moran does ask how she got on the case as a green detective, and she does like kind of jump down his throat of like, I deserved it. That's why I got it. And we find
Hmm.
out that the school didn't let people into the school proper after hours without permission, and it's limited. So like Holly and her friends got access to the school
Hmm.
by after hours because they had to work on a project. Like he kind of gives that rundown.
Yeah.
Um, and so they're
And and Conway mentions like previously having gone and talked to Holly's group, and she mentions like knowing these different girls and like the dynamics between them. She mentions Holly being a liar, and
mhm,
she says, yeah, like that girl's a liar. Like I
yeah,
don't trust her. And I think doesn't Moran like bring up like, oh yeah, her dad's a detective,
yeah,
and I think she's like, yeah, I already know. And
yeah.
like obviously that's why I think she's a liar. She's gonna like it makes sense or something, but it's mentioned a lot about like Holly being a liar, which is
hmm
red flag to me.
I mean, Holly did lie in the last two book or
Hmm.
the last book. There was also a huge rumor that Chris was dating Serena, but it wasn't like out in
Hmm.
the open. So the weapon was a
There's a
garden.
Serena and a Selena, correct?
Oh, wait, Selena. Sorry, it was Selena. He was dating
Okay.
Selena.
But there's
Um,
also a Serena, I think
is there a
mentioned.
Serena? Okay.
Maybe,
Um,
maybe not. I'm not.
I don't know.
Now you're
I
making
do
me
know
question
that
myself.
he was potentially dating Selena.
Selena. Okay.
And
That's the
then
one from their group.
yes, the weapon was a garden tool. Anyone could have done it. They go over things.
Somebody right-handed, though, likely is what they said.
People had access to the hoe. People thought the gardener might have done it, but he was alibied. They hit Chris from behind. It could have been a girl. Like they kind of go
Mm.
through all of that.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of
they
different
basically just know like
theories.
right-handed likely and height likely
Yeah.
of.
And so they know that the kids, it's a kid with potentially there was a theory that it might have been kids with like this ecstasy ring, but Chris was clean at the time. There was nothing in his system. The gardener alibied out, so they're kind of like they reached a dead end, but she thinks it was someone on the school grounds.
Mhm.
We do find out that Antoinette's old partner was Costello, who's now retired. He had helped out, but all throughout it, he was really respectful and he wasn't really
Mhm.
willing to step on toes. So um, chapter 4, the girls are at the mall where everyone hangs out.
I
Becca
hate
talks
this.
about how she was also excited for it when she first got there, but later she realized it was just a mall from the 90s where everyone goes to flirt.
Hmm.
And there's a little bit of an arrested development with Becca where like they're 16, but she kind of feels younger, where she like doesn't get why everyone's interested in boys or interested in like the machinations of it all. She kind of just wants to, she remembers a time where she was meeting Selena and Selena took her to this window overlooking Dublin and how it was like this magical moment. She's really like very drawn to that feeling.
She also has a little bit of bitterness to her. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like the vibe that I get from her, like she mentions like certain like the way that she talks about the other girls, like their interactions with each other, like what they're wearing or things like that. There's a
Hmm.
little bit of bitterness. Actually,
Yes.
not just a little bit. There's a lot of bitterness in the
Sometimes
way
she
that she talks
screams
about
about
them.
how she wants to wear jeans, and everyone's like,
Hmm.
"Fine, just wear jeans."
Yeah.
Uh,
And also she has mentioned that she like wants to go home like
yes.
before that, and she had a really hard time there before she was in this friend group.
Right. And then we also find out that Julia travels a lot. Her parents are away, and she tends to dramatize stories about her getting into trouble.
Hmm.
Um, they overhear Joanne talking to her friend Orla, who is ugly and stupid, and everyone
I hate
mentions it.
everything about this.
And Joanne tells Orla that this boy named Andrew fancies her, and they all kind of like Becca's horrified when the other three girls clock that this is a lie and Joanne's
Hmm.
doing it to humiliate
Humiliate
Orla.
her so-called friend.
Yeah. And so the girls kind of talk back and forth, and like Holly takes a bet with one of them where she's like, "Yeah, I'll bet that Orla doesn't do it." And she's like, "Hey, Orla, Joanne's lying to you." But like it's this enrages Joanne, and she does this awful thing where
She
she's
like
like, "Well, if
doubles
you
down
don't believe me and approach Andrew, it means you believe them and you're not a good friend." And so like Orla does go to him and
and
she
is
is
humiliated.
humiliated. So
It's
um
horrific.
and then we meet the headmistress, Miss McKenna. She's sharp. She doesn't want them there. She says all this did was stir up drama like the last time. They discuss the secret place. It becomes apparent it's a way to keep details on the girls, like tabs of going
Yeah,
on.
but not very good because like like I said, they say that they're monitoring it, but then when they're like, "Oh, but do you have like any kind of camera on it or anything?" They're like, "No, it's supposed to be." I'm like, I'm
It's that
confused by the
weird
premise of
high
this.
school of like, we want to give you independence, but we also want to give you some type of oversight so that
Hmm.
you're not going off the rails. Because they talk about how the girls had made like a burn book website and it was really bad. And like, it said like this girl whose dad committed suicide did it because of her.
Yeah.
And so this was a way to like let the girls be cathartic, but not overstep. And as a woman who once had to sit in a room and hold hands with a bunch of her classmates because we were quote unquote mean girls and say one thing that was that people thought about us that wasn't true, teachers are really weird when it comes to catty girls.
Was this in high school?
This was in high school. And again, I went to a Catholic school, so this feels very traumatic for me specifically. They
This
said
is odd.
our
I
they
can't
they
believe this.
they literally said my group of class, my 36 girls were too mean. And what they I don't know if they meant my group because why would we? We were just in all the student council things. But like because our group was quote unquote mean, all 36 of us, we literally had to have a 2-day council of like mean girls-esque stuff. And at the end of it, we all had to hold hands and say one thing that people thought wasn't true about us and why that wasn't fact. And so like they got to me and I was like, people think I'm a bitch, but I'm just really quiet. And I remember
This is so bizarre. Like,
one girl was like,
I
I
know that you watch
know.
these movies and you think like this isn't real. This never would happen in high
Oh my
school.
God.
Apparently it did.
And then we had one girl who was like, I know everyone thinks I skipped the dance last week to be with my boyfriend when we were all supposed to go together, but I was really sick. And one of them was like, that was a lie. You totally did that.
What?
We had that. We had a priest who once like screamed at my class. It's so far removed from me because I was not a bad child. And so like it would
Huh.
happen and it's very bizarre when you're a child who has no idea what is going on, where a priest got very mad and he's like, "You guys just all doing things like joking about giving each other blowjobs."
What?
I'm so sorry. These are all true story experiences from my life.
Hannah, is
Um
the secret place based on your school?
Apparently, we had a giant
Did
billboard where you could just
Tana
post
French know
anything.
about your
No,
school?
but at one point, one of the girls in my class did create a Mean Girls burn book on Facebook, and then we tried. That's how I got Facebook was we wanted to find it, but they had taken it down by the time that we got on it. So, um,
Oh my.
okay, sorry for that
You
tangent,
know what?
but
I didn't have any friends in high school, and so this is like
I did it. I had one friend in high
mind-blowing.
school and like a couple people that I hung out with from time to time, but I had one friend in high school and she and I were like the kids on all the things, and she was like the nicest girl who had like a very high pitched voice, like a
Uh-huh.
cartoon mouse. And so we were just sitting there as a pretty screamed about blowjobs, being like, "What's happening?" Like we would
Wow.
have sleepovers and we would be in bed at 9:30 because we were both sleepy. Like,
Uh-huh.
and that was my high school experience was you guys are all too mean to each other. I'm just like, how? I don't understand. Um, I digress. But anyway, so like this is a weird way to keep the girls like keep tabs on them, but give
Yeah.
them that independence to just vent. And they do monitor the chalkboard. I think they say they check it at least 3 times a day. So like they remove
And
anything
they kind of
bad.
switch what teachers are looking at it too.
Yes. So that it's like so they know that the Chris photo wasn't put up until much later in the day. They said that there were like 2 other photos that got taken down.
Hmm.
And like 2 that got to still exist. One about like boob implants. I'm sorry. One about boob implants and one about something else. But um, so they kind of know that you find out that Joanne's group and Holly's group were both there that evening, and you have to get a key to
Hmm.
get access to it. So it literally has to be one of the 8 girls who posted the photo, unless someone snuck in. Um,
Well, and the
so
key like goes missing or something too
oh, you found out that there
at the
was
time of
a
the death,
at the
right?
time of the death. No, it's kind of confusing. So you have to get a key
Okay.
to get into the school, but
Hmm.
there is a key to the boarding room, the
Ah,
boarding
yes.
house area. And that went missing from the nurse before the
Hmm.
death, like 6 months before. But
Hmm.
everyone was so trusting that no one thought to be suspicious about it.
Right.
So there's this missing key, but it wasn't to the school proper. So
Okay.
it was just kind of a like, look how stupid these people are.
Hmm.
And so they decide that they're going to interview Joanne's group first. Conway and Moran kind of talk about it, and Conway's like, I'm gonna let you do it because they've already seen me before. They know who I am and how to talk to me. I want to throw them off their game. And she's also kind of like, and you play nice. Like,
Right. She's like, they're gonna love you.
right. And so they head towards it. And then we head on back to the girls. They're back in the field near the near the mall where everyone goes to drink, hang out, and
Hmm.
finger each other pretty much.
Yeah.
And Chris Harper's behind them being so great and ooh, like very, very handsome. And it's just like a lot of high schoolers doing stupid stuff. So like this kid approaches Julia, James, he offers her alcohol and they go off to like make out. And Becca's kind of like, why would she even be interested in James? Like, why would she want to leave us?
Hmm.
And they're all kind of like, she's just going off to make out with him. She doesn't really
Yeah. Like
care
she's
about
not
him.
interested in him.
Like, this is just someone kind of finding themselves. And um they have this other kid who comes over and like tries to make out with Becca, and he's younger than them. And it's really awkward because she like obviously isn't interested, but he's obviously just trying
She's
to
also
find someone.
insulted too
Yeah.
because she clocks that he kind of picks her as like the easy to get
Hmm.
one. He's like, oh, well, this will be the one out of the group that is at my level that I'm able to achieve, quote unquote.
Right.
And so she's insulted.
Yep. And but like Holly and Selena are kind of more on board to play game with him where they're like, "Oh, here,
Hmm.
take a photo, show it to your friends. Who cares?"
Well, the thing is, they call him out on
Yes.
why he came over there, and then uh, I didn't take it as like them saying like, oh, we're uh playing with you or whatever. I took it as more like they are kind to
Oh,
him,
no,
honestly,
no. I
because
said
they're
they're
like,
willing to play game. Like they're like game. They're just like, "Oh yeah, come on over. It's fine. Like you're fine." Like we meant similar things. I just said it in a
oh,
different
okay.
way. Yeah.
Because I was like, they're kind of nice to him because rather than like make him go back over to his friend group embarrassed, they say,
Yes.
why don't you pretend like you're taking a photo of us and then you can go back over there and no one will have to know what just happened here.
Right. No. So then we flash back on over to Moran. He talks to Orla. Again, everyone, the first thing they say about her is like, she's stupid.
Oh, poor Orla. It makes me
Um,
think of Orla from Dairy Girls.
I also thought of Orla from Dairy Girls, but she's kind of oblivious. She doesn't know what's going on. They talk about like what happened that night, and like Gemma has a boyfriend. She went out and talked to him,
Hmm.
so she left for a little while. Joanne had to leave at some point. Like every single one of them is consistent on what they saw and when they left. And so they know and no one's looking at the secret place to see if the photo is still up. So they're not really
Hmm.
sure who knows what. We also find out that like Gemma is slutty, I guess. Like they're so weird about the details
Hmm.
they give where they're like, Orla is dumb and that's about it. Gemma, she's the slut. And it's like, okay, she's a 16-year-old girl who like or 17-year-old girl who wants him to take notice in her, you know?
The
And
other thing is,
yeah.
though, like, I get a little frustrated by the way that the girls are described in this way because it
Yes,
very much minimizes them as people. And I don't like that because,
I
and
know.
like their chapters are very frustrating to read, like the flashback ones, because they're written very immaturely and like the, even like the language changes where it feels like a different book almost
Right.
because Tana French, and this is maybe just, I guess, a not at what a skilled writer she is that she's able to do this, but it's a total shift from going back to Moran's POV where
Hmm.
the language is very much mature and everything. But I don't like the way that he and Conway talk about the characters because it's
It's
it's very
hard.
much it minimizes them as people. Like I said, I think is the only way to look at it because they very much like put one single trait on them and kind
Yeah.
of think of them as stupid and not worthy of digging deeper into or giving more time. I don't know. I don't
It's
like it.
also hard because in one sense, like these are 17-year-old like young women.
Yeah.
And there is something to that where sometimes I read them and it felt like I was reading about 12-year-olds. But at the same time, like as a late bloomer who went to a Catholic school, I do think that that's at like you are a little bit more immature because you are much like your everything is kind of more controlled in a way where like
My thing is though, Hannah,
yeah,
like so if we're assuming that Moran and Conway are like is her name Conway? I'm not remembering now even.
Conway, yeah.
Yeah, if Conway are about like our age, I feel like you and I are looking at these younger characters with a lot of kindness and
Yeah.
giving them more depth than these two people who are supposed to be our same age are, where they're being almost cruel about the way that they
Well,
see them.
and they are cruel about them, but they definitely like Holly's group more, which is just a weird
Hmm.
thing for adults to be like, well, I don't
Yeah.
like the mean girls, but the other
Yeah.
ones are fine. Because we find out that like Allison's super fearful.
Hmm.
She's a little bit more paranoid. Apparently, there were rumors that Chris's ghost was haunting the school, and like the teachers had to bring in counselors and like nip it in the
Hmm.
bud. And Allison is just like more freaked out about why the police are there. And Moran is able to kind of switch things up for each of them of like he matches Gemma's energy, he makes sure to
Hmm.
look at her leg or whatever. And with like Allison, he's like much more like, I've got it, it's okay, don't worry about it.
Hmm.
And then Joanne comes in and if you listen to the audiobook, I also think the narrator hated these girls because like,
Oh no. I read the
ah,
physical book, so
okay. She's just like, for such a lovely guy. Like, well, I wasn't gonna name names. Like,
oh
the
jeez.
narrator makes them sound like they're the worst. Um, and so Joanne is someone who kind of tries to come across as innocent, but also is like trying to point out that Selena and Chris were dating, and
Hmm.
Selena was obviously beneath him, and she like thinks a lot of herself because Selena just chopped off all of her hair. And she's more willing to like kind of side talk Holly's gang where she's like, well, Julia's ridiculous and Becca's the worst and Selena's insane and she just kind of goes into it. And so but no, they don't think any of them posted the photo, so there's not much there. And then it's about time for the other group. And Conway's kind of like, be careful. These girls are much more tight lipped. Like the other four will rat on
Hmm.
each other. These four care about each other. Cut back on over to the girls. Is this the dance scene where Becca's screaming about
Oh.
jeans? Oh, and we did find out from Joanne that like at a recent dance, like Selena was wearing some ridiculous dress
Hmm.
and Becca was in jeans and the other two were just dancing like nobody cared. Oh, and so no, this is a scene where we find out that like all the girls are sitting hanging out and we find out that Julia got sent a dick pic from one of the guys. Because when she snogged James, he made up a rumor that she went
Yeah.
farther. Um, And Julia kind of talks about how she doesn't understand why she gets this bad reputation because she didn't do anything that like anyone else didn't do, but no one else is
Hmm.
getting dick pics. And the girls point out that Julia has like a very specific affect of like,
She does
sh
have a different energy.
yes, she's much louder. Like she is just more gregarious of like, oh, I want to tell stories about my
Hmm.
travels. And she kind of like, she cusses and she's just more of a brash person in high school. Um, and so
And she's
they,
also like got a different type of humor and way that she
mhm.
interacts with people where she's not afraid to take on certain people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it is that, but it also like it's a very weird thing where she's someone who is a little bit different, but she also wants to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. And I think the girls don't necessarily vocalize that. They're just kind of like, well, you're different. But I do think that that's the energy of like, because she cares about like going and drinking and like kissing boys, she very much cares about that, but she's got a different personality. And so it comes across differently and people pick up on it. And
Hmm.
that's hard when you're that age because she very much wants to be normal and left alone.
Yes.
And so the girls make a vow at that point that they're never going to date one of the boys from Cullen because they're all ridiculous and they're not adult yet or mature enough. And
Hmm.
this is just like such a toxic little space, and they all swear
Hmm.
it. So then Becca comes in, and Conway warned Moran that Becca's going to be like very, very timid. And she's just not. She's like
Yeah.
very abrasive. She talks about how much she like loves her friends, and like how
Hmm.
close they are. And she kind of gets offended by everything Miranda saying to
Yeah.
her, where she's like, "We were just in there, we're hanging out. I don't understand why you guys are here." She doesn't really react well to him at all. And he's showing all of them the picture of Chris, and they're all reacting a lot. Like Joanne's acting fakely, Orla's like
Hmm.
crushed. Gemma's kind of shocked. And Becca looks at it and she's just like, none of my friends would have posted this. They would have talked to me about it. I don't know what this
Hmm.
is. Um, and so
Which,
he's
what did you feel about Becca's reaction in this situation?
well,
It
I
seemed
mean,
out of
I've already
character for me.
I mean, we only know her from the past. I mean, we only know her from the past, so like it is very out of character from what we've seen of her,
Hmm.
but it's a weird reaction. Like
Yeah.
she's very abrasive to the girl we once knew. But I also think like we find out that Selena chopped off like her butt length hair and she's
Hmm.
obviously in mourning. Um, like they talk to Julia, and Julia like is very pragmatic. She's willing to talk to them and say things, but she's just like, this is weird. None of my friends would do this. I trust them
Hmm.
all, you know. And she's like, I would never date anyone. You got to give me credits. Um, and she's like, you can ask me anything. Like, I'll be upfront, but this is ridiculous. And like, you should
Hmm.
talk to Joanne and her crew. She kind of sees things in a more pragmatic way. She calls it
Yeah.
like she is. She thinks that Joanne was probably, you know, jealous over Chris and Selena, like all, but she was also, I mean, she doesn't say that, but that would be my implication of her. But it's just like a bunch of back and forth. So then, we have Selena who is very flighty. Like she kind of just sits there, and Conway describes it as she probably has a dream catcher above her bed. And I'm just sitting
Hmm.
there like, this is a very traumatized girl whose first love was murdered.
Murdered.
Like, and they don't seem to get that, where she seems very out of it. She's answering questions, but like mildly.
Hmm.
But she does remember things. And like Moran calls that out, where he's like, yeah, I understand that Selena's a little spacey, but she knows what's happening, you know.
Hmm.
And then Holly is Holly. She reiterates everything. Everything sounds practiced. Um, and she is kind of like assessing the situation of like, oh,
Hmm.
Joanne wouldn't do it. Orla would do it, but like only if Joanne told her to. And she also says that Chris, he asks everyone what their reaction of Chris was. And like, Becca was like, oh, he was nice to people. And Julia was like, he was fine. He was just another guy. And Holly's like, he was terrible. He was self-serving. I once saw him like ridicule a girl because she wanted a muffin, which is also another extreme of like I
Hmm.
totally get where Holly's coming from of like it's weird to see someone be cruel, especially when they're in power, but also like they all are in high school and we've all
Yep.
done crappy things to people in high school. So it is very all or nothing with Holly.
Hmm.
Um
I
and
think
so
that 16 or even earlier, that 13 to 21
yeah.
age is very difficult to navigate.
And so Conway kind of brings them all in. And she is like, one of you guys did this. I know it. We know it. And we're going to find it out. And also, now you're in danger because if you posted
Yep.
this and the killer knows, they may murder you. So you guys better watch out. Um, and there Joanne tries to kind of strong arm her, which is the dumbest thing I've seen a 17-year-old do in a book, where
Hmm.
Joanne is like, "Ah, I can't believe," is like whispering when a police officer is talking to them, and Conway like is like, "What are you doing? Stop doing that." It's
Hmm.
like you can read a room. It's not one of the nuns. Like, what are you
Right.
doing? And so then they take a break to eat. So we cut back on over to the girls doing Christmas shopping. They're drinking disgusting drinks. Um, and just chit-chatting about the world.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like they're finding this power in being above dating other boys or being stepping away from that. And like Andrew Moore, who was in the prior scene, making
Hmm.
fun of Orla, comes over to talk to them. And Holly is just like, "Hey, we're actually in the middle of something, so could you leave?" And it's really shocking to like the entire community that they're not playing with the actual high school scene. Um,
But it kind of tracks, though. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That this group would be like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think they're like they are kind of
It's
oddballs
realistic.
and yeah.
It's realistic teenage dynamics, is what we have playing out here.
Yeah. But also they are still high schoolers where again they're talking about like Becca's like, I don't want to wear jeans to the dance and I feel like I'm gonna puke. And they're all like, well, don't puke,
Hmm.
like, um, and they're like, just wear what you want to wear. You have to go to the dance or else they're gonna make you talk about your feelings. But like, we can make this into what we want. You find out that like Selena's dress isn't that salacious, like Joanne
Hmm.
said. It was like a mini dress that her mother
Yeah.
wore once upon a time. And the other girls are just wearing like normal dresses and they go and they just have a free night, four of them like wearing into it. Um, and this is also when they decide that they have to sneak out because they have to do something. And they find the key. Becca's the one who steals it from the nurse's office because no one expects it. And they
Hmm.
just go out dancing in the middle of the night. They have scrapes and it's all very earthy and very like ephemeral. And
Yeah.
they feel very empowered by it. So, um, then we go on over to Conway and Moran, and they're just kind of like eating at the cantina. They don't want to leave because if they leave, Conway has to talk to her boss and he may take the case away from her or put like more power to it and a more like senior detective. And it's around this time that we find out that like she was put on because they thought this was a slam dunk case. They thought it would be very easy to
Yep.
find out who the murderer was and it was an
Which
easy
is
way
so
to get her.
sexist.
I know. But also like probably something that happens with all rookies, I'm guessing. It's
I'm
hard.
sure, but it
Yeah.
feels like, knowing what we know, that it feels like a sexist
Yeah.
target. You know what I
And
mean? It could be a rookie thing. I don't know the dynamics of
and
being
she
a
kind of is
detective,
like it
but
went
it
wrong
feels targeted for a woman.
wherever it could go wrong. She was like everything just dried up. No one knows and they're kind of talking over who they think it could have been. And like
Hmm.
the only one it feels like is maybe Selena or one of the popular girls because Selena's so out of it.
Hmm.
Um and so um then they're sitting there still talking. Someone sends them a text saying Joanne kept a key to the boarder's wing/school door taped inside the Life of Saint Therese third year common room bookshelf. And it's a phone number that they don't recognize. They try to text it back, they don't answer. And so they have to go a hunting and they have to get McKenna on board. She's like threatening them to be like, if you guys aren't out of here by this time, then I might have to call your chief. And Conway's like, well, if you do that, I'll have to call the parents directly to have them here. That'll maybe that will happen. Um, but they go searching, they find the key exactly where it was supposed to be, And so they ask Orla about it because Orla is the weakest link. Um,
Hmm.
and they also talk about how the third floor common room was only accessed by people like in a specific group. So each common room has a code set at the beginning of the year that only like a specific amount of girls can go in because it stops people from robbing the place. And
Yeah.
Conway is really snarky with McKenna, where she was like, I thought you didn't raise people or have people in school like that. And McKenna's like, well, with the locks, we didn't. And so it really could have only been a select
Just-
amount who would have been in
yeah.
there.
It's likely a student.
Yes. Um, and then we cut on over. Becca's thinking about how all of her friends are amazing. Um, and this is with the jeans part. I'm so sorry. I kept coming back to it because I keep getting distracted by it. Um, but they're sneaking out again, and Joanne catches them. And oh, during the jeans part, the lights start flickering on and off, and the girls think they're witches now. So there's some sort of magic where they feel like they can.
This is the Tana French, like, I'm gonna make
It's
you think that there's some element of magic at play here.
honestly,
Is it fairies? Is it the will o' the wisps? This to me works a little more in this situation because it
it's
would be
just
something that teenage girls would immediately get on board with, like
we're
magic.
witches. I do like because when I was reading this, I'm like, this is just the what is the Salem witch trials? Like that's what it
Hmm.
feels like is a bunch of girls getting on board with that. But um they literally think they can control electricity. And
Hmm.
then Joanne catches them. She pretty much tells them they have to hand over the key or else, and she might give it back to them. Um, but when she goes to touch it, it's hot and it quote unquote burns her, even though there's no bird mark. And the girls don't know what they did, but they're like, oh, we'll have to get
Magic.
her the key soon. It's fine. And Becca talks about how she doesn't want to be normal. Holly and Julia are kind of like, I want to be normal. And Selena's like, don't worry, it's just a new type of normal. Um, and we also find out that Becca is giving herself tattoos for the best moments in her life, and they are all surrounding her friends.
Hmm.
So
She has
they,
a very deep connection to the friend group.
yes. And so, yep, they question Orla. She talks about how it was Joanne's key, how she got it from the other girls. That's what she told her, even though she doesn't know. Um, and she had nothing to do with it. This is also very Dairy Girls of like, it was
Yeah.
Michelle. It was all Michelle.
Hmm.
I think we lost a little bit of respect for you there, Orla. Um, and so,
I don't think it was
uh,
that wasn't Orla.
oh,
That
it
was
wasn't Orla. I
Bridgerton character. Uh, what's Claire?
No, no, that was Claire. No, I know. I just said Orla because that's the
Oh, got
character
you,
in the
got you.
book because she was just pointing fingers. Um,
You said
but
Michelle, and so I was thinking Dairy Girls.
no, I mean it is a line from Dairy Girls, but I
Oh, got you.
was did the Michelle and then I switched it over. So it was Joanne. It was all Joanne and Gemma, and she like says that it was never her. She only went out once. Those girls did what you thought they would do. They went out to go drinking with boys. They did it a couple times and then it was stupid,
Hmm.
so they stopped. Um, and like Selena and Chris were definitely together because they talked to Joanne, and we find out that Joanne had been with Chris for a while. He even gave her a secret phone because he was super rich.
Hmm.
Um and they had been together for a couple months, and then he dumped her ass pretty much. And it's one of those where she like doesn't want to admit that because it would make her lose face.
Yep.
They just keep catching her in a lie. Um, but she says that she got the key from the other girls. Like Julia had pointed the finger at Joanne first and was like, "Oh, Selena and Chris were never a thing. Don't worry about it." But then Joanne chose a video of Selena and Chris, and they were definitely together. Um, and it was very, very romantic and very weird that she was videotaping them and they're like sniggering in there. Um, and so now there's a bunch of motives floating around because Joanne had blackmailed
Hmm.
Selena and got Julia to break up with have Julia have Selena break up with Chris because she had this
Hmm.
video and it could get them kicked out. Um, and that's and during this, Orla also admits that I'm missing so many parts of this, so sorry, my notes are scattered. Um, Allison at some point thinks that she sees Chris's ghost and she has like marks on her hand. and they find out that it's an allergic reaction that they think Joanne caused for Allison so that she could get the key back. But then we find out that Orla didn't tell Joanne she never got the key back because there were too many people on site during that time.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's a huge question mark on what's happening. McKenna's upset because Allison saw Chris's ghost, which has everyone in hysterics. Um, and like there's a lot of question marks right now. And then we cut on over to the Valentine's Day dance. During this time, we see Chris and Selena meet and they just go sit outside to talk. And Julia meets this boy named Finn, and he has red hair and he's nice to her. And so,
Hmm.
all these things are happening. And Joanne also mentions that Finn and Julia were totally a thing, and she knew they were slipping out. So we also realize they get the phone from Allison that Joanne made her buy off of her for like 300 quid or 60 quid.
Hmm.
Um, and it's the phone that Chris gave her. And there's a specific number, and they realize that they had texts going back and forth, and they realized that the text they received from the other number about the key was Chris's number. So someone has Chris's old phone.
There's a
Um,
lot of secret phones.
there's a lot of secret phones. And so it's all coming together. It's all Mean Girls all the way
Mhm.
down. And Mirana's like, I just don't know what to do anymore. And Conway says, coincidence and imagination after all, with all this stuff going on. And that's halfway through this mess of a book.
Honestly, it is incredibly messy in this middle section,
There's just
but
so
in
much
a believable way
happening.
that like only teenagers could be this type of messy.
I will give you a small thing. I believe my next review is like, even when Tana French makes kind of a mid whodunit, it's still amazing. So I do think,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
so far I'm not vibing with this one near as much as I did the previous two, but it's still good.
it's very good. It just feels very unique to suddenly be like, I'm gonna do a back and forth with teenagers. And it's like, Tana, I don't think you hang out with teenagers that often because
You know what?
this,
My take is I think she knows a lot about teenagers because this seems very realistic. My take is I don't think she likes
that's
teenagers.
fair. Maybe that's the point, but it's just very random. I don't know. I don't know. Laura, who done it? That's what I usually
I
ask you.
I think I know. I don't
You,
want to say it though.
oh, you don't want to say it? Usually you'll guess.
Well, I mean, do you want me to spoil on the
Well, usually I think every single time you've told us who you think it was at
Okay.
the halfway point.
So yeah, I'll just guess. I'm almost positive. It's gotta be Becca. She it's gotta be her because we get her POV. We also she just red flags, honestly. Like the way that her character shifts between the flashbacks and now, she also has this like weird bitterness and yet extreme devotion to the friend group that is a bit of a red flag for me where and she also was like an outsider before she became part of a group of outsiders, which
Mhm.
is an interesting dynamic. She just kind of stands out as a character that likely I don't know how it happened yet or why, but it seems like there's a lot at play here with specifically her that makes her stand out as the likely killer to me.
Well, join us next week to cover the rest of the plot and see who done it, everyone. And before that, please make sure that you're following us on all of our social medias right now, OWWR Pod on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok from time to time. Um, I do want to flag that our Patreon is up and running again this year.
Yes, it
We've revamped it a
is.
little bit. You can give us $1 a month just to be a supportive fan if you want to throw something our way. Every little bit does help.
Hmm.
With that, we try to post all of our bookmarks, a printable version, so you can print that off and have it for your books if you would like. But you can also join for $3 a month. $3 a month gives you a bonus episode every month. Right now, we are covering Dresden Files,
Yeah,
the
the TV
TV
show.
show. And so we have covered episodes 1 and 2. And so definitely go listen to our backlog. We really
Hmm.
appreciate it. It would be amazing if we had more people talking to us over there. Or
Yeah,
you
we'd
can
love
always
that.
join us over on Discord. It's pretty silent because there are millions of Discords out there. But if you want to talk to us, please come talk to us over there. Um,
Usually, like the second that anybody messages on their Hannah and I like jump on it
and then
because
they're
nobody
like,
messages us on
I'm
Discord.
I'm so sorry, I have to leave. No, and then if you could, please rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is so important.
It
We've
really
had
helps.
we've had more people come to the podcast this year, so we are so excited that you have come to
Hmm.
join us, and we hope you stick around. And you can also text us from this episode. I do know this. You can literally
Ooh,
text us on Buzzsprout. So
yeah,
start
do
using
it.
these special features, rate, reviewing, and subscribing, commenting, or just, telling a friend. But
And
yeah,
thanks for listening today.
bye.
Bye.